Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fight, he scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it, shoots one, bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski, another jam on the shot, turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado.
And Cork, Ireland.
Hi. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode 20 for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring discussion of the monoculture farming method, we're not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
Thank you very much for tuning in with us this St. Patrick's Day week.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups from the past weekend for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games, and we're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you listen to us from. Scroll all the way to the bottom and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO, or the point shares model we use, or some of the newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you'll better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today Googling Academy Award nominee plot summaries. So why not spend a little more time talking hockey with us? Fun fact, the trial of Chicago 7 isn't about the Blackhawks getting out of Brent Seabrook's cap hit. Thanks to Sean McIndoe for that tip.
Thank you for that knowledge. Yes. Speaking of Chicago, definitely not the Blackhawks farm club, but still in the Chicagoland area, the Chicago Wolves against the Iowa Wild. Let's dive right in and talk about that series and recap the weekend. We'll begin recapping the weekend, rather. So Saturday, Sunday set. We both predicted a Wolves sweep. The model took Chicago 58.74%. And the results were decisively Chicago. 4-0 shutout on Saturday. The Wolves took it over the Wild. And Chicago 6, Iowa 2 on Sunday. Whew. In the preview for this series, we said the Wild needed to do 3 things to have a shot: good special teams, good goaltending, and good rush defense. Let's start with the special teams. How did that go for the Wild?
Well, it wasn't a complete disaster, but very, very close. They were 0 for 10 on the power play, had a lot of trouble getting zone entries, some of which was the Wolves' effectiveness forechecking, some was sheer incompetence by the Wild. I can't recall the last time I've seen a 3-on-2 rush fail to get a zone entry, but I got to witness that this weekend. The Wild did just that on a power play on Saturday. They also repeatedly screwed up the double drop zone entry play. They failed to adjust strategy 5-on-3 instead of just ran the same power play 1-3-1 like it was a 5-on-4, which is just bad coaching. When they did get set up, they generated a few good chances on the power play, but they didn't make a lot of effort into putting passes across the Royal Road or getting chances from the inside. It really only looked like Jerry Mayhew was the only one who tried to make those kind of passes or those plays, whereas the rest of the power play was just about getting him the puck. They shot a lot from the perimeter, with Beck Warm clearly able to see the shots. Not a very effective power play strategy, but they did manage to generate 1 or 2 chances, so not a complete disaster, but very, very close to it. On the penalty kill, 4 for 9 on the penalty kill across the weekend. Not very good at all. As I said in previous episodes, that basically every team runs the check press on the penalty kill, but I honestly have no idea what the Iowa Wild are doing on the penalty kill. Looks like some twisted marriage of the check press and a diamond formation, which regularly left guys wide open in front. Poor coverage of passing lanes across Royal Road into the slot. Novak's power play goal on Saturday, case in point of what happened there. They didn't cover a pass across Royal Road. They left a guy wide open in front. It was difficult to watch from someone who enjoys watching special teams.
So 0 for 1 Iowa was during their weekend set. Goaltending wise, did Hunter Jones look like he has all season?
He did. I know he's a second round pick, and stupidly that means the team will insist on playing him because he was a second round pick. But he's been absolutely awful this season. Continuing to trot him out there when he's clearly not ready for this caliber of shooter cannot be good for his game. His best game of the season was probably on Saturday, and he gave up 4 goals. That's not a way to help him build confidence, get used to the speed and the ability of the shooters in the AHL, let alone beyond that. He still is very raw. He has a lot to like about him, though. His athleticism is very good. He's a very big goalie, but he doesn't find his angles fast enough or well enough, but he moves in some cases too well where he over pushes his spot. But he definitely needs, I think, a more measured approach of when his start should be. I would not be throwing him out there against Chicago in back-to-back games. I think that's a mistake, and that showed right away. He's also someone, too, if there was an ECHL team they could send him to, I think that would have been a better start for him. But because, again, second-round pick, we have to play him.
Where have you gone, Derek Barabo? Iowa is sorely needing you now. How? I mean, it's true. It really is. I mean,
It really is.
It really is. But 0 for 2. How about the third and final point? How'd the rush defense do, Sean?
Not good. They didn't give up a lot of odd man rushes or rush chances in general, but the ones they gave up did not go well. Rempo scored 1-on-1 on a Saturday. Jeannot scored 1-on-1 Sunday shorthanded. Kalen Addison just quit on that play too. We left Tyler Sheehy to play defense against Jeannot, and well, when you're a forward playing defense against another forward, that generally goes kind of bad. And Tyler Sheehy's not exactly one for defense in the first place. LaJoie scored on a trailer on a rush chance. Keaton Thompson made a bad pinch to make that play possible. Tomasino scored on a rush chance. And on that one, I mean, it was on a power play, but the back three of the Wild's 1-3-4 check were covering the right half of the blue line. There's just an area pass to Tomasino on the left side. He walked right around everyone who just, for whatever reason, weren't there, and just absolutely owns Hunter Jones on the ensuing partial breakaway. That's not a way to play rush defense, even in those limited opportunities they got. But it didn't really matter if they did well in rush defense because they were so bad in the first 2 aspects that they could have played perfect rush defense, and I don't think it would have made a difference in the outcome.
Well, 0 for 3. 4-2 or 4-0 rather, and 6-2. Yeah, I kind of had a hunch it was going to be an 0 for 3 kind of thing after seeing those scores. So, last thoughts on the weekend for the Wild and the Wolves.
Well, first of all, these are 2 teams that do not like each other at all, and that's understandable. I mean, when you're playing teams a bunch this season, that kind of animosity is going to build up, but they didn't really have that, long series of games going into this weekend where I think only played each other once before that. But I will say the Wild played a style that I don't agree with. A physical grinding style of hockey can be an effective style of play. Focus on effective pressure on the forecheck. Emphasis on finishing checks is F1, establishing the cycle and winning battles down low and in front of the net. That's a style of play. Those are principles of a system. Taking dumb penalties, chasing hits, useless fights, employing bad special teams tactics. That's not a style of hockey. That's the difference between what St. Louis and LA did on the way to winning cups and what Iowa did this weekend.
Yeah. Not a lack of style is not style. Is that pretty fair statement there?
It is, and they really did they didn't take advantage of the special teams penalties when they were able to goad Chicago into bad penalties. They took bad ones of their own. It was not something, if I were in the front office of the Minnesota Wild, that I would have been happy to see my farm club be doing.
Yeah, Coach Army for the Wild, probably not happy about that. They are now 6 out of 6 teams in the Central Division, 3-7-2 after this weekend. Chicago, of course, still sitting at the top, 10-2-1. So, yeah, Texas surprisingly knocking on the door. We'll get to them here in a little bit, but second series we wanted to talk about today, Bakersfield and San Jose. So Friday, Saturday, 2 games set between those two. I called the split, Baco on Friday, San Jose on Saturday. Sean calling the sweep for the Kingslayer, for Jamie Lannister of the AHL. And the model predicted Bakersfield 68.95%. Of course, like we mentioned last time, the model not very high on the Sharks because of the rotating cast of characters. And the results, Bakersfield 4, San Jose 1 on Friday night. Condors 4, Barracuda 3 in overtime on Saturday. So Sean, once again, correct on his picks with the Kingslayer sweep. So there you have it. Sean, 2 for 2, and me, 1 for 2 in regards to series picks. It happens. Sean's better at this than I am.
That's fair. I mean, we did talk about a season preview where series preview where the Barracuda needed to come out guns blazing. They needed to really put the pressure on them. CC, did the Barracuda listen to our preview advice?
Yeah, I'd say they did. I mean, the Kingslayer really had won the first period so often on their win streak. So yeah, San Jose did just that. They owned the opening minutes of Friday's first period. 5 shots on goal in the opening 5 minutes. That's a good way to kind of knock an opponent back on their heels. So you had the rush chances on good forechecking in the neutral zone, plus execution. That's the important part, not just the chances, but the execution behind it. They were really, like I said, they were really forcing the Condors back on their heels.
And then what happened?
Well, then Jaden Halbgewachs had an incredibly bad defensive zone turnover on the breakout. He made a blind pass between his legs right to an opposing skater. And Melnichuk gets off his angle a bit on the ensuing 2-on-0, and Cracknell buries it. 1-0, Condors Town. After that, whoever was running the AHL TV feed, this is a bit of a sidebar, but yeah, AHL TV decided that this game needed wacky time travel element to it. I kind of experienced it a little bit in the opening weekend when Colorado faced Ontario, but it just really made the game near impossible to watch. I tried typing in 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42 into the prompt, but that didn't seem to help. Shout out to you Lost fans out there. Condors took over the rest of the first and second period, as far as I could tell anyway. And they just, from jumping back and forth, that's what I gleaned from it. But hey, after that initial 5 minutes, the Condors really shut the Barracuda down. Skinner faced like 3 or 4 good chances after the first 5 minutes. There's a big save on Gregor at the end of the second. Defenseman ran into him and left the net open, but the shooter had its head down and missed the net. And that you got to make those shots. 2 of the Halbgewachs created two of the see, his name is throwing me off here. 2 of the Halbgewachs created, but 1 went wide. The other hit the post. So true scores on a bad rebound, given up by Skinner. The Cuda really shot themselves in the foot with penalties too. You know, they didn't see the Gallant boarding call because, I didn't see it rather because of time travel. And the rest were legit calls though. Probably missed 1 or 2 on top of that from what I saw. But again, from what I saw, it's kind of a, it's an objective thing. Well, it's subjective because I was all over the place, but there was that. And the choppiness didn't help me in catching the game.
And that's been a complaint I've heard from fans across the league too, is that this is not an unusual thing when they're trying to watch the broadcast live. But I know that it's frustrating when you get games like that. And especially it's even more frustrating when you see a clear penalty and a ref just doesn't put his arm up because it's like, well, I gave one team 4 straight power plays. I have to do a call or for or against the other team to, kind of even the ledger as if that were part of the game. But unfortunately, it is part of the game.
Right.
Closing thoughts for you on Friday.
Well, like I said, the first 5 were fun for San Jose and the next 15 were fun for Bakersfield. The last 40 really weren't very fun, period. The second and third both felt very ugly, and it was just kind of low event hockey. I don't think the Condors took their foot off the gas per se, but both teams weren't really executing as cleanly as they had been. Still, the Condors closed out the Cuda pretty well. I mean, 4-1. It's not a, it's a rout by any means, but it's a 3-goal win. So Blackfield was largely a non-factor in this game. I wouldn't say he played awful, as the team around him didn't play well either, but would have been a moment for him as a leader to have stepped up in the second or the third and made an impact and get his team in the game. Merkley continues to struggle. Not a good defensive game from him, and just kind of a non-factor in the offense. So that's what I have to say about Friday.
All right. Well, Saturday was clearly a different looking game. How did Saturday look?
Whew, that hot start from the CUDA on Friday didn't come with them on Saturday. That's for sure. Condors scored the first goal and won the shot battle in the first period. CUDA looked much better than they did compared to the last 55 minutes of Friday's game, though. San Jose played short because apparently Brinson Patsachuk was supposed to play, but wasn't on the listed roster for the game. Another Pacific Division roster starting lineup snafu. We talked about Colorado in the Henderson series. San Jose now, 10 forwards, 7 defensemen. They played 12 forwards on Friday. There was no Sharks roster moves that should have affected them, but they still tried to play 10 forwards and 8 defensemen. It's not that big of a deal, though, as Bakersfield joined them in the 10 forwards and 7 defensemen department after Graham McPhee was tossed for not having his fight strap secured. Ugh. Okay, yeah, that's a stupid rule that a wardrobe malfunctions a game misconduct. 2-minute penalty, sure, okay, yeah. Sean and I were talking before the program, like we noticed that kind of stuff, happen a lot, and especially even this weekend. Sean noticed some games this weekend where it happened and no penalty called. It's kind of just up to the referees, I suppose. But anyway, overall, the game was much more fun to watch. Chances were more in Bakersfield favors, but not by a ton. San Jose had a couple good ones. True had a wide open net off a rebound, and it just hopped over his stick. Vale couldn't put one home. He couldn't put the shot home on the right there on the doorstep in front of Blackfield. And yeah, it was kind of a frustrating game. San Jose kept it closer, but there were some missed opportunities there for sure.
Well, speaking of Skinner, we talked about Stuart Skinner in the preview, comparing him to run your car on moonshine. How was he this game?
Well, Stuart Moonshine Skinner was good in stretches. He was also bad in stretches. His rebound control is awful, and he skirted disaster a few times in the series with it. That True wide open net, Alexander True there, it was off his bad rebound control. Blackfield scored off of it. A few more that either the defense got to first, the shot missed the net, or hit the post. I mean, yeah, it was scary. You just were left holding your breath. And I mean, Bakersfield won in spite of him.
Clearly, he's got the luck of the Irish going on for him right now.
Aye.
So you talked earlier on Friday night about how guys like Merkley did. What did Merkley look like on Saturday?
He was better. His defense was still spotty. Didn't tie up Marody well off face-offs, and Marody gets a tip in. That was at least one example of it. He had some good moments, positive clips and video review. Still a lot of cleaning up to do. A few like, what in the world? What the hell are you doing? Moments, just left you scratching your head. Just some poor effort attempts, I noticed. And Blackfield was also better. He went from easy to miss to impossible to ignore, which, visibility. It's kind of an important thing when your stars are on the ice. You want to point to him and say, okay, that guy's supposed to be the star. That guy's supposed to be the leader. And Saturday, definitely you could see that more for Blackfield.
And that's what we talked about too when he went up to San Jose, is because he has so much of their offense on his stick right now. I mean, if you look, I think only a handful of other people on the roster, the giant expansive roster that San Jose has playing half the town, like only a handful of them have more than 3 goals the entire season, where Blackfield has like 8 or 9, I think. He is a lot of their, put the puck in the net ability. And on nights when he's not doing that, they did and do struggle. But he was a much bigger factor on Saturday, as you said, and that, raised the boat of the entire team. Closing thoughts on Condors Barracuda before we move on here.
Sure, yeah. So Condors coach Jay Woodcroft's endgame antics on Saturday doesn't make the cut for the 6-pack goalie pull challenge, unfortunately. But 6 forwards, putting 6 forwards out there on a unit with the empty net, I love it. It's phenomenal. That is such a good thing to see. You want to talk about going for the gold and just, balls to the wall, pulling out all the stops. I'm 6 forwards. That's going to do it when you pull an empty net, when you pull your goalie and have an empty net rather. And the kid line, Benson, McLeod, Marody. I'm not sold their ceilings are top 6 NHLers, but they're very much future NHLers for Edmonton, probably. I mean, they'd be foolish to let these kids go. And last but not least, whatever the hell is going on with San Jose's rotating roster mess needs answers. It's amazing how much the team's energy and cohesion, it waxes and wanes game to game, and it's not good for anyone involved. Sean, like you said, Blackfield, 7 goals. He leads the team. The only other people, you got Alexander True with 4 goals, Jaden Halbgewachs with 4, and Frederick Handemark with 3 as well. And then you got a bunch of guys with 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Yeah, it's like you got to spread the wealth out a little bit. You got to take the Henderson Silver Knights approach to things a little bit more. And yeah, they're just not doing it. And the rotating cast of characters does not help.
Especially when you keep trying to do silly things like play 10 forwards, 8 defensemen, when you should very clearly have forwards at your disposal to play. And we said this in the season preview way back, what feels like months ago now, that this giant of a roster was going to be unwieldy to manage and that they were going to have, some chemistry issues, we thought, because of it, trying to, plug in different guys in that bottom 6, or in some cases, even in the top 6 on any given night. And it's really been very hit and miss. They look like a completely different team some nights, and that's not a compliment.
No, absolutely not. So San Jose, it looked like they were picking up a little momentum, and then they decided to shuffle the cards on their roster, and they dropped 2 to Bakersfield this weekend. They did get a loser point for that overtime loss on Saturday, but yeah, Sean, not a fan of the loser point for sure. Well, hey, we have got to go partake in some corned beef hash, I believe.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Yeah. Let's take a break. Listen to our sponsors. Please listen to them. We get paid every second, every moment that you do. And especially if you listen all the way through, that's the most important part. So after these messages, we'll be right back. All righty. And we're back. Our bellies are full with corned beef hash, and we're ready to tackle our 3rd series of the program, of the episode. And it's another Pacific Division draw, the Ontario Reign. Oh, they actually played a couple different people. Yeah, that's right. Ontario versus Tucson and Henderson this weekend. They played Tucson on Friday, and they played Henderson on Saturday in El Segundo, California, where Ontario are playing their home games this season. So I picked Ontario Henderson. Sean picked Ontario over Tucson, and Henderson over Ontario, but close. And the model, it's only a model, picked Tucson at 71.23% on Friday. Henderson at 79.49%. So, yeah, Sean's and I's picks were the same. Ontario beat Tucson 5-3 on Friday, and Ontario beat Henderson to give them their 2nd loss of the season, 4-2 on Saturday. Now, Sean, we talked in the preview about how the members of the Black and Silver Bandits just can't continue to shoot with this poor luck. How did that go?
They certainly got quite a few fortunate bounces in their way against Tucson. The Rangers, they got 3 good luck goals in that game, as far as I can tell. 2 scored by Kaliev that took weird bounces off defenders to go in. One off a rebound that hit Cam Dineen's skates and went in. I mean, it was certainly a nature is healing PDO version of how this was going to look.
For sure. Now, in terms of puck luck and luck of the Irish and luck in general for the entire team, the Reign got good luck in this wild, entertaining game. Elaborate a little bit more on that, Sean.
They absolutely did. They got a few wrong offside calls that negated odd man rush chances for Tucson. 1 or 2 that I thought were a little bit egregious, but I have replay, so I understand how that's missed live game. They also had the 3 goals we just mentioned. They also had the glass cover and the timekeepers both come off and stop play during a rush chance for Tucson.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even that violent of a hit that dislodged it. It was just kind of a weird, ordinary hit. Glass comes right off in front of the timekeepers, and Tucson's going in, I think it was 3-on-2, and blow the play dead. Lane Peterson also found on a shot into a wide open net with about 2:30 left in the game. That goal would have tied the game, but he whiffed on it. Another good break for the Ontario Reign in that game.
Roadrunners continuing to be struggling. We said they sleepwalked through most of the Texas series last week. Did they look awake and ready to go for this game?
Absolutely, for sure.
Okay.
3 good luck goals for the Reign were the difference here. Ontario is taking steps forward and is generating meaningful offense, but Tucson looked like the better team in this game, but I thought it was close. Regardless, it was a much better showing from Tucson in the loss than what we saw in Texas. Their power play still does not look great to me. 0 for 5 in the game and didn't really create a lot of chances from inside. A lot of shots from outside, one-timers from the half walls, and passes from the point. Not a lot of what I would have liked to have seen from a more effective power play. Not tactically the best use of the players they have on the ice or the formations they have in the 1-3-1.
Gotcha. Sorry, I thought you had a little more to say about that. Let's move on to Saturday's game against Henderson. A little bit different broadcast, eh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I saw the article from the AHL about the King's Spanish language radio guy. Francisco X Rivera was going to be in Ontario for a game to do a broadcast in English, his first ever in English. That article came out on Monday, and I guess I just forgot about it or thought that I'd missed it, but turned the game on. It was a pleasant surprise. He was really good, too. I loved what he brought to the broadcast, loved his goal calls, which were fun, as well as having a polished color guy like Daryl Evans was really nice. Such a great break from the monotony of the broadcast that really make a very ugly, grinding game more enjoyable for me to watch. Even though I skip through the breaks and the action when I watch, I don't get to hear everything that's said, but I did, find myself sticking around during the whistles to hear more of them.
Yeah, an engaging play-by-play guy is really something that's, especially at the NHL level, you kind of take for granted because the NHL teams, if you have a good guy, you keep him around. But at the AHL level, a lot of these guys, sometimes they're in markets where hockey may just be, starting to, get a foot or has only been around for 4 or 5 years. Looking at a lot of teams in the Pacific Division in that regard. But yeah, no, to have a play-by-play guy that's really engaging and entertaining at the AHL level, I think it's priceless for sure. So, all right, transition back to the gameplay. You seemed to imply that Friday's Reign win was maybe a bit more lucky than being the better team. Well, you didn't just imply it, you flat out said it. Did Saturday's win follow suit?
No. Ontario was the better team on Saturday. They won because they did 3 things. Number 1, they executed. While far from perfect, this was the best game in terms of executing breakouts, continuing cycles that I've seen from Ontario. We talked about it in the preview. We talked about it a little bit in other spots throughout the season, that Ontario has just not had good chemistry. They've struggled to understand the system that they're playing. They're making passes to where they think their line mates should be, and they're not there. This game was not a perfect example of that, but it was very much a step forward. I have no idea if they will build on that going forward, but I certainly hope so. There's too much raw talent on that team to really be executing at this level and not finding their rhythm, their chemistry. Second thing that they did very well is contain the rush. Much like the Chicago Wolves, Henderson loves them some counterattack and transition. They're very good at creating turnovers or recovering dump-ins and immediately going up the ice with possession and numbers. Ontario didn't gift wrap them any odd man rushes and was responsible with its forechecking and executed its game very well on its own end. Daryl Evans made an excellent observation on this with the broadcast, talking about F3's play near the blue line and how that's helped break up plays, breaking out and sustaining possessions for Ontario. He was dead on the money with that. That is very much how their forecheck operated. That was a small adjustment that you saw from previous games because they knew that they had to keep Henderson from walking in 3-on-2, 2-on-1. Third thing that they did that was huge for them is they got big minutes from their bottom 6. Boko Imama and Brett Sutter were with big games, not just on the score sheet, but winning shifts on Henderson's end. Most teams with the raw talent this one does, and ignore their record here. There is a lot of raw talent here, but they're still flour, milk, eggs, butter, and sugar. They're not a cake yet. Most of them can't even buy a beer on St. Patty's. Meanwhile, your top 6, when you have raw talent like that, their top 6 is what wins you games, and you hope that your bottom 6 can basically play to a draw in their shifts. Ontario was able to roll 4 lines in this game because they were winning shifts all over their lineup, and that was good to see. They got big contributions from Imama and Sutter and others in that bottom part of their lineup that really helped them carry the day. This is also the first time I really felt like I saw some of the magic from Byfield. Unlike Zegras or Jarvis, Byfield really hasn't stood out. I've been waiting for those moments, as we talked about in the preview, of that's the number 2 pick kind of moment where he does something that's just jaw-dropping on SportsCenter top 10. And he didn't quite have those moments per se, but I saw little pieces of it. I saw more from him in this one, having that elite game, that elite hockey IQ and that awareness than I did in previous games. I'm still waiting for those big, I point and see that's the number 2 pick moments, but I was encouraged by what I saw in Henderson from Byfield and how he's moving forward and developing as a player.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Especially, I mean, in our weekend preview, you even pointed that out. You said, hey, nothing's really, coming to the surface for this guy that says, hey, you're really standing out as the number 2 overall pick in the draft. And so, yeah, you're going to have those busts, but I mean, now that you've seen that magic from Byfield, do you feel like he's maybe, obviously he was never going to be a bust. I should just kind of discard that line of rationale right there, but you're seeing more of the magic is what you're trying to say.
I'm seeing not necessarily what I would call the magic per se, but I'm seeing hints of it.
Okay.
There is definitely more there than what you can find on a stat sheet from Quentin Byfield so far this season. But he's also been one of the ones that seems like he has struggled to find that chemistry and that somewhat understanding of the system. There have been moments where I thought he looked not necessarily out of place from a hockey sense, but not exactly where he was supposed to be in that particular play. And it's getting better for him. There's still a little bit of junior in his game that needs to be coached out a bit, but that's true of a large portion of that lineup because most of them, like I said, can't even buy a beer on Wednesday.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of young juniors guys making their pro debuts this year for the Ontario Reign. All right. 3 series covered. Last but not least, we've got a Pacific Division versus Central Division showdown. The Colorado Eagles versus the Texas Stars. Friday and Saturday night. I picked the Stars on Friday and the Eagles on Saturday. Sean picked, past tense, a Texas sweep, and the model had Texas at 69.06%. Rather nice. And the results, Texas 4, Colorado 2 on Friday. Colorado flipping the script on Saturday, 5-3. And hey, I won a series and Sean lost one. So, oh, by Jove. Oh yeah, give that thumbs down. I called it. I stuck to my guns and went with the split instead of the sweep. So there it is.
All right. Well, Texas took Friday, Colorado on Saturday, just like you predicted. What were the biggest differences between these games for Colorado?
Oh, in the beginning, there were goals. First game, the Eagles, man, they got knocked on their ass. Melnick from Texas, rather. He scores 43 seconds in. 34 seconds in. Little case of dyslexia there. Then Fellhaber, adds to it 3 minutes and 44 seconds. You go down 2-0, 3 minutes and 44 seconds into the game. It's not good. I mean, Vecchione responded before the first period was over, but then no goals were scored by either team in the second period. The Eagles' record after being tied or trailing after one period this year, including this weekend, is 1-4-2. Now, I know numbers aren't everything, but they do tell a story during this first game. I mean, you can't, the Eagles have a bad habit of getting knocked on their butts in the first period and letting up an early goal or two. And when that happens, they can't quite recover very well, in my opinion. As for the second game, well, when you score 4 straight goals in the first period, it takes some colossal screwing up to lose at that point. And get this, Sean, that first goal by Mike Vecchione, it was a power play goal.
Is that even allowed? Is that legal in Colorado, power play goals?
Apparently it's illegal in Cedar Park, Texas for the Eagles. So there you go. Now Colorado is 4 for 47 on the power play this year. That is an 8.5% conversion rate. Still in last place in the AHL, number 28, but let's not focus on that, shall we? Any dent that the Eagles make on that man advantage bodes well for them, I say. I mean, you can't go anywhere but up from 28th place out of 28 teams. So, hey, as for Texas, they weren't winning the 50-50 puck battles, and that ultimately led to Colorado getting more physical and allowing more time for the Eagles to generate plays in the Stars zone. The Stars just weren't prepared for the punch in the mouth Colorado had for them in game number 2. You want to talk about 2 goals in the first 3 minutes and 44 seconds? What about 4 goals, 4 unanswered goals in that first period? Colorado had their number right away.
So we also saw that Bo got pulled on Saturday, but then went right back in to start the next period. Please enlighten me as to what is going on with that.
Well, if you're not familiar, welcome to the Coach Neil Graham goaltending show. Now, listen, I covered Neil Graham for 2 seasons down in Idaho. I have watched him pull a goaltender for allowing 2 goals on 3 shots. And I've also seen him pull a goalie in the first period like this, only to bring him back in the second period like he did on Saturday night. I've seen both of those scenarios, and he's, like a lot of people, very kind of can be a little touchy about goaltending situations, and probably subscribes to the Goaltending is Voodoo fan club that is, ran by Sean O'Brien himself. But I talked with Coach Graham. I actually got to interview after the game on Saturday night, and he said that the goals that Landon Bo allowed weren't on him. And in saying that, it makes me think that Graham was sending a message more to the team than to Bo himself. Now, the patron saint of the podcast, Thomas Scholl, he stepped in for all of 3 minutes and 47 seconds of the first period with 1 save on 1 shot. So patron saint getting a little ice time there. And Bo, of course, like you mentioned, he started up again the second period. He didn't allow another puck to pass him after that. So the team stepped up in front of him finally. It was unfortunately too little too late, but the message was definitely sent by Grammer for sure.
Adam Warner started both games, and it looks like he struggled in both of them and has been struggling most of the season. What did you think of his performance?
Well, just like Bo is struggling with inconsistency, I think Adam Warner has some rust to knock off. He definitely looked much less rusty in the second game, even with 3 goals allowed. He was on the taxi squad for pretty much all this season. And then you take Peyton Jones from the Eagles and you put him on the NHL taxi squad and put Warner back down there. Now that Trent Miner is, called back up to the juniors, the minor to the juniors. Sorry. I couldn't help myself. A little wordplay there. The last 2 goals that Warner allowed in on Saturday night came late in the third period from a red hot Tyler Damiani. So, that could have been a loss of focus there. Maybe just running into a fed up forward from the Texas Stars. Could have been a combination of both. But the more games Warner plays, the better he looks after shaking off that taxi squad crust. And, Warner was a serviceable 1B goaltender behind Hunter Miska last season for the Eagles. So, if he can step up his game a little bit and continue to work through, actually playing games on a professional level against other teams, then, I still think he trends in the right direction. Maybe not exponentially, but, in a, gradual line if you're a graph person.
All right, then final thoughts on the weekend series between Texas and Colorado.
Well, especially in that last game, seeing Damiani turn it on, he's pretty good. Yeah, that Damiani line on Saturday night with Cole Schneider out, you had Damiani, you had Nick Baptiste, and you had Adam Mascarin. That line was really fun to watch. They were really fast. They were really cohesive. They just, especially in that last 5 minutes of the third period, they really turned it on. Granted, having a 6-on-5 advantage there. And we'll talk maybe a little bit about the goalie pull 6-pack challenge with Coach Neil Graham here. But yeah, that was fun to watch, but it was obvious, and it was painfully obvious, that Texas having Cole Schneider out for that second game, it was a big difference maker, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And let's bring up this goalie pull 6-pack challenge, because Neil Graham is going to get it. We actually don't have a 6-pack challenge pull line for 3 goals down, but
Right.
he did make the one for 2 goals down. So Neil Graham and the Texas Stars if you're listening, which you should be, we're giving your team pretty good praise here. It's a good chance to tune in. We have a 6-pack for you. If you would please, slide into our DMs, send us an email at calderfarmsteadpodcast@gmail.com. We will make arrangements to have a 6-pack come to the location of your choice and the beer of your choice. If that's, if you want to leave it up to us, I'll send you some fine guineas, but I think you'd probably prefer something of your own taste. But you send us an address and a beer, and we will send it to you in a 6-pack for your brave and beautiful use of pulling the goalie.
Yes. Down 4-1, pulling Landon Bow with, 5 minutes left in the game, getting that goal from Damiani, and then pulling him again 4-2 with, over 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I believe.
3:34.
Thank you. Yes. So, Coach Graham, he's a Calgary guy, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, Molson's, I feel like Molson, I feel is more of a, Quebec sort of beer, maybe Ontario too. But I don't know, maybe a Moosehead, maybe a 6-pack of Moosehead, Coach Graham, if you like Moosehead.
We can make that work.
Sure. My pops was a big Moosehead guy, and
I don't know how we get Moosehead in Texas, but I'm sure we think of something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, if my dad could put in a request in the early 90s for Moosehead in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, then the only liquor store in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado. And then when he moved, the owner's like, well, what am I going to do with all this Moosehead? Anyway, fun little sidebar there. Well, hey, let's we covered 2 more series. Let's take a break. We'll down a Guinness real quick, maybe have an Irish car bomb, and we will be right back after these ads. Please listen. It gives us money and it gives Sean the opportunity to go back to his homeland, back to the motherland. So
absolutely.
Hang with us. We'll be right back. All right. And we are on the home stretch of the Calder Farmstead episode number 20. We've got our cream of the crop.
Oh, yeah. Talking about the cream of the crop. Yeah. On balance, off balance, doesn't matter. Nobody can stop me. Yeah.
Sean's not the only one who can do weird impressions and accents, that's for sure. All right. So we'll start with the cream of the crop. We'll get to the quiz. Sean, who do you have for your cream of the crop this weekend?
Well, for starters, you have to say Cooper Marty. He scored 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points in 2 games. It doesn't get too much better than that, and he was absolutely on fire for them the entire weekend. And against San Jose, absolutely, Cooper Marty, back-to-back weeks, I believe, cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Who's your first one up there, Cece?
Oh, that's right. We're rotating. I was waiting for your second one. Sorry about that. Sean just shakes his head. He's like, come on, Cece, get it together. Of course, the Diamond Cutter, Tyler Diamond Cutter Damiani. 3 goals, no assists, but hey, all those 3 goals came on Saturday. And like I said, he was a blast to watch on that line with Baptiste and Mascarin. Damiani gets my first cream of the crop. Yeah.
My second one, I didn't get to watch this game, but I did see highlights of it. Alexander Barabanov, absolutely amazing. 2 goals, 3 assists, and an opening weekend for him for the Marlies. 5 points in 2 games will always get you a spot on my cream of the crop. That is my second one, Alexander Barabanov.
My second one comes from the Chicago and Iowa series, and I know you're going to touch on that here shortly, Shawnee. But Tanner Jeannot, Nashville contracted Tanner Jeannot. 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. You want to talk about a good 5-point week? Tanner Jeannot did it. Of course, a lot of guys making the score sheet when you score, 4-0 and 6-2, 10 goals overall against 2 goals allowed. So Tanner Jeannot from the Chicago Wolves, my second player to make the cream of the crop.
Lastly, for me, I'm going to go David Warsofsky. 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points on the weekend. Like I said, you put up 5 points in a weekend in a 2-game series, you're probably going to end up here unless somebody really went nuts. That was a great weekend. He played very well in all 3 zones. Very, very pleased with David Warsofsky, coach's brother.
Coach's brother. And not just getting preferential treatment, showing out on the ice for sure. Can't argue with that. All right, last but not least, I kind of did a goaltending duo on the weekend because, player of the week winner, not just goaltender of the week, but player of the week winner, Jeremy Swayman and Callum Booth wins on Friday and Monday. Earlier today, when we're recording this, just 2 goals allowed in each. Swayman allows 2 goals. Callum Booth allows 2 goals as Providence puts a 5 spot on both Hartford and Bridgeport. Now, I know that may not seem super impressive, but the fact is Providence, they're continuing to do well, and they're continuing to, recover from those games that they may lose. They're 10-2-1 now. So, still on pace to maybe pick up those 19-20 wins. And I'm not biased at all about, wanting the goaltenders to be on the cream of the crop, because, I remember talking to Jack Murray when we were on In the Corners, our previous show, and Jack Murray was really high on Jeremy Swayman. And now I see it. Now I'm seeing it. And Callum Booth, he's doing fairly well. He especially showed it this weekend too. But hey, when you got scoring support, I'd say throw the Providence Bruins in there as a whole. The whole team is just the cream of the crop. Yeah. All right. So there you go. That's who I got.
I will say for me, an honorable mention for cream of the crop. He didn't have quite the great performance that cements him a spot here, but we can't go without pointing out Oscar Danska's stand on his head, put the pad in the air save.
Oh,
yes. If we could have a moment, not necessarily a performance or a player for the weekend, but a moment from the weekend for cream of the crop, that would be it. So at least honorable mention to Oscar Dansk for that one.
Yes, that's like skimming the cream off the top, because that's just a moment. So that's ultimately what that would be, right?
I think that's fair.
Okay. Just making sure. I don't know. I'm not making, country crock, shed spread or anything like that, but that is the weekend that was from the March 12th through the 15th, extended weekend. So last but not least, Sean, you've got a new quiz for me, I noticed.
I do. And it's right in line with, how this week should be, as the week of St. Patrick in my household here. It's not a day. It's not a St. Patrick's Day. It's a St. Patrick's week. So this quiz is called the Irish Six Pack, which for those of you playing at home, we are not going to give Cece 5 beers and a potato.
Aww.
What this is I have 5 categories of statistics, and I'm going to give Cece 3 Irish players that are currently playing in the AHL this season, and he has to tell me which one of them is the leader in that category. If he gets 3 of them, he will have won the quiz.
Okay. Bring it on.
All right. First category is goals. Which one of these 3 Irish names is leading in goals in the AHL this season? Is it A, Gage Quinney, B, Ryan Fitzgerald, or C, Morgan Barron?
I'm going to say A, Gage Quinney, Henderson Silver Knights.
That is correct. He has 7 goals on the season and is leading those 3 Irishmen. All right. Cece is 1 for 1. Next, we go to assists. Leading in assists for Irish names, is it A, Jack Dugan, B, Paul Carey, or C, Danny O'Regan?
I'm going to stick with Henderson and say C, Danny O'Regan.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is not the right Irishman. We're looking for Jack Dugan. He has 11 on the season.
Dope.
Cece is 1 for 2. All right.
It happens.
Next in the 6-pack is penalty minutes. All the Irishmen who love a good scrap. Leading in penalty minutes among the Irish names, is it A, Joey Keane in Chicago, B, Jamie Devine in San Diego, or C, Casey Fitzgerald in Rochester?
Oh, man. I haven't really been paying attention a lot to the scrappers this year. So, say those again. One more time.
Joey Keane in Chicago, Jamie Devine in San Diego, or Casey Fitzgerald in Rochester?
I'm going to go out east and say, wow, brain fart. I'm paying attention to you. I'm looking right at you. What was that third option again?
Casey Fitzgerald in Rochester.
Casey Fitzgerald. Thank you. Let's do that one.
That is correct. Casey Fitzgerald leading the Irishman with 27 penalty minutes.
Wow.
You are 2 for 3. You need 1 more out of the last 3 to seal a victory and some face time.
Okay.
All right. 4th category. Fourth of the 6-pack here. It's power play points. Leading the Irish, is it Riley Walsh from Bingo, Morgan Barron from Hartford, or Stephen Fogarty from Rochester?
Say those again.
Riley Walsh from Binghamton, Morgan Barron in Hartford, or Stephen Fogarty in Rochester. These are power play points we're looking for.
I'm going to say Barron in Hartford.
No, I'm sorry. That's not correct. It's Riley Walsh.
Oh,
He has 6 power play points on the season.
okay. With how abysmal Bingo's doing, I just kind of wrote him off. Silly me.
All right. 5 out of 6. Here we go. Shots on goal. Is it A, Gage Quinney in Henderson, B, TJ Tynan in Colorado, or C, Joey Keane in Chicago?
I'm going to say C, Joey Keane in Chicago.
Oh, CC.
Oh, no.
Bringing it down to the wire. It is actually B, TJ Tynan with 29.
Wow. I figured since he came in later in the season that, okay. All right. Okay.
Last but not least, the luckiest one of them all, shooting percentage.
Huh.
Is it A, Tanner McMaster in Lehigh Valley, B, Patrick McGrath in Rochester, or C, Nicholas Welsh in Rochester?
I'm going to go with A.
Tanner McMaster?
Yes.
Oh, CC.
Oh, no.
Patrick McGrath in Rochester has a 100% shooting percentage so far this year. 1 shot, 1 goal.
Oh,
True
Lordy.
sniper.
Well, how fitting it is. I normally win the quizzes, but how fitting it is that on this St. Patrick's Day week and on this St. Patrick's St. Patrick's weekend recap, that Sean, you actually get to take the floor for some FaceTime and your quote unquote 30 seconds. You have the floor, my good man. And I got stumped. Well done.
All right, I want to talk about something that is driving me absolutely insane, and we do it every year, twice a year, in fact, and it is insanely silly, and that is daylight savings time.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why we continue to think that this is something that we must do or partake in. It serves no purpose, and there is absolutely no reason for us to not just be permanently on daylight savings time. It's so silly that 2 of our states, Arizona and Hawaii, have realized that it's dumb and don't do it. So does Guam, the Virgin Islands, as well as Puerto Rico. What are we doing, America? We need to stop pretending that daylight savings is something we need to be wasting our time confusing people with on a Monday morning when they're trying just to get to their job or watch television at the end. It's not gaining us anything. We need to get rid of it, please. I know that there are more important topics for our Congress to be debating and fixing in the country right now. Believe me, I understand. I'm not saying daylight savings should be ahead of those things on the list. I'm just saying it should be on the list of things to get rid of in this country because it's silly and it really does nothing but frustrate everyone. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you for that TED Talk, Sean. We really appreciate it. So, yeah, like I said, Sean with the luck of the Irish this week, stumping me on the quiz. And those Irish names, that was fun. I enjoyed that. So thank you for stumping me and making me look like a fool, not picking TJ Tynan, in Colorado Eagles and the home market and everything like that. It wasn't just that. It was the whole quiz. I started off strong, kind of fizzled out. Yeah, that was rough. But hey, guess what? We are done with episode number 20. So I guess I get to start this time. This is a little weird. So that's it for the show. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Subscribe on any podcast platform, on YouTube, and please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening from. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like I mentioned, you can like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. So doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. So let us know. We love talking to people. We love talking to the fans because, that's what we are as well. We're fans of the game. So You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. And links to all of that and more can be found on our link tree, which you can see if you're watching the video is scrolling below. But if you're listening in audio form, it is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Shawnee.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram. That is improving slowly over time as I take more pictures of the world around me. That's at Sean O'Brien _81. If you're interested in hearing about all these PDO and point shares things and the modal, you can find that on my Tableau page at bit.ly/datadump-and-chase, all lowercase, all one word. It gets updated weekly around Tuesday. Is about the best I can promise you. I'm kind of lazy Monday morning, so it doesn't always get there. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction, DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too.
And my name is CC Hockley. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can find our program, other hockey programs, and a plethora of other podcasts at Full Press Coverage, which is fullpresscoverage.com. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. That's our resident, Full Press Hockey AHL account. And my personal Twitter account is at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. You can see me tweeting about music, pro wrestling, throw in a clever meme and converse with, pretty much everybody else on Twitter. And of course, mainly hockey. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Sean, take us home.
Thank you for tuning in. Please dump and chase responsibly. Have a good St. Patrick's Day. Be safe.
Be safe, y'all.